that are still to complete, we will complete with the method of video. I am going to make the video on the topics that which are left, and you will watch the video for study it. So here the topics that we will cover, that is the water, impurities in water, removing insoluble impurities, sedimentation and decantation, filtration, removing soluble impurities, evaporation, distillation, and distilled water. To help all of you, I here also made some figure that are related to the topics. So the first one is the water. What is water? If I ask this question, then the first thing which comes in your mind, that is our life. Right. Water is our life. Because we cannot survive without water. Water is the basic thing that is important for all the living things. None of the living things can survive without the water. And if we talk about the water on the earth, that is the 70% water is available. Means the total earth, that is its 71% part is the water. Now you will listen, be very happy. After listening this, you will be very happy because the 71% of the part of earth, that is the water. But is it actually? No. Because the 97% of this 70%, that is the salty water. And you know that we cannot use the salty water. That is not useful for us. That means the remaining 3% water, that is only useful for us. Means the whole water that is available on the earth, only the 3% is useful. But the problem is not just in this. One thing is also the 2% water is in the form of ice and glaciers. You know that glaciers are very big mountain of ice that are being flown on the seas and oceans. So glaciers are in the form of ice, so definitely we cannot use it. You know that if you want to drink the water, if you want to use the water, it must be in the form of liquid. If it is in the form of solid, we cannot use it. Means these 2% water is also not useful for us. We cannot use it directly. So what the next? The next is only the 1% water that is available for us. Now just you can see the importance of water, how much essential is it and why it is necessary to save the water. Only the 1% water is useful for us, that is called as the fresh water. And we get this fresh water in the water bodies like river, lakes, ponds, wells. These are the sources of the fresh water from where we can get it. The our one main and very big source of water, that is the rain. I am sure that all of you will be happy after listening this word rain because we all enjoy it too much. So the water that we get from the rain, that fall down from the When this rain get in ocean, that gets salty. When this rain gets in the river, that increases the water in the river. In the lakes, when this rain fall on the ground, it directly seeps below the ground. So whatever the water that is collected inside the ground, that is called as underground water. The peoples that normally live in the village, we use a machine that is called as pump, which is utilized to take this groundwater at the surface from where they can use it. So these are the situation and the condition of water on the earth. And as just we talk, when the rain fall on the earth, it moves continuously on the ground. So definitely the water that we get directly in the nature, it is not much suitable to use for it. The reason behind it, the impurities in water. That is our next topic. Impurities are the things that make the water not suitable for the use of it. If we will use the water with impurities, we can suffer with many diseases. So, these impurities will be get out of the water. That is our next topic. But the thing is, the impurity that is mixes in the water, that are of two types. First one is the insoluble and the second one is soluble. In earlier classes, we already studied these two topics. The insoluble impurities that not mixes in water, and the soluble impurities that mixes in water. So the impurities that mixes in water, that is the soluble, and that not mixes in water, that is the insoluble impurities. So whatever the form of impurities it is, actually we have to remove it from the water. That's why our next topic is the removing insoluble impurities. In this topic, we will study how we can remove the insoluble impurities from the water. Here, we studied that the insoluble impurities not mixes in the water. So here the methods by which we can remove it, that are the sedimentation and decantation, and also the filtration. To make you understand these topics, here I have drawn the figure. The first one figure that you can see, that is the sedimentation. What we do in sedimentation, we just leave the water in which the impurities are mixes for some time. To understand this concept, one thing I want to remind that in your daily routine, there is one food item that is called dal. When we utilize this, if we just left the bowl of dal for some time, you will find that these pulses will settle down and upside you can see the only the liquid form. Normally this happens in the winter season. So just like it, when the impurities settle decantation. When the impurities are mixed in the water and we left it for some time, the impurities are just settled at the bottom of the container or whatever the utensils we use. So this process is the sedimentation. After sedimentation, the next one is the decantation. Here I just drawn the figure of the decantation. In the process of decantation, we just take the container in which the impurities are settled down and pour the upper part of the clear water to the other container. And in this container, the impurities are settled down or left. So this process is the decantation. In the sedimentation, the impurities are settled at the bottom. In decantation, we just pour the clear water in the other container. That is the decantation. Our next topic is the filtration. In this word, there is another word, that is the filter. This filter, we use it. Here, a special type of filter is used. That is the filter paper. This special type of filter we use for do the process of the filtration. In this filtration, we use a filter paper to filter the water to take out the insoluble impurities. Here, this is the figure of the filtration. In this process, we use a filter paper that we just fold it to make a cone and keep this cone in the funnel and pour the water mixes with the insoluble impurities in through this filter paper. And this filter paper just collects the impurities at it and the clear water gets fall down in the container. So that is the method of the filtration in which we use the filter paper to just make clean the water. Now the next is removing soluble impurities. The removing of the insoluble impurities is little bit easy, but the soluble impurities is little bit different because the soluble impurities mixes in the water. So here we have to use the different method. So here we use the first method, that is the evaporation. To understand the process of evaporation, you have to just remind you one earlier concept, that is the water cycle. Did you remind this concept? I am sure. When you will remind this concept, the evaporation will come in your mind, in which the heat of the sun means the sunlight that which we are getting from the sun that heats the water bodies. Then the water in the water bodies heats up, it converts in the form of the water vapor and goes high up in the sky. So that is the method of the evaporation. To make you understand, I just drawn the another figure. Here, this figure is on the evaporation. It is a very simple and a common step. You can understand it by doing yourself. Just take some water in a small bowl, put this water at the roof of your house and watch this water day by day. You will find that after some day, the water will be empty in that bowl because the heat of the sun just make the heat the water and it changes in the form of the water vapor. So this is called that evaporation. When the heat hits the water and it changes in the form of the water vapor. This process is the evaporation. When the whole water changes in the form of water vapor, the remaining part in the bowl, that is the soluble impurities which just left bottom of the container, because heat cannot make it evaporate. It can evaporate only the water but not the soluble impurities that was mixes in the water. The next is the distillation. The distillation process, here the figure is just made. In this process, we just heat the water. When we heat the water changes the form of water vapor. This water vapor goes through with of this tube, and here we just cool this water vapor with the help of cool water. When this water vapor cools down, it changes in the form of water. By this way, we can just make it the usable. So this process is the distillation. And the water that we get after the form of distillation, this water is called as distilled water. So here, that are the topics we just